The boardroom smelled of stale coffee and desperation. Marcus Reed slouched in a creaky chair, his laptop casting a faint glow across the scratched oak table. It was March 20th, 2025, and New York's skyline glittered beyond the grimy windows, indifferent to the secrets about to spill. Across from him sat Cheryl Loomer, her auburn hair pulled into a tight bun, her eyes darting like a hunted animal's. She'd once crunched numbers for the UN Population Division, until she'd seen too much. "I'm risking everything," Cheryl whispered, sliding a thumb drive across the table. "This isn't just data. It's a death sentence." Marcus, a journalist with a reputation for chasing shadows, plugged the drive into his laptop. Files bloomed on the screen, spreadsheets, memos, and a scanned copy of a 177-page UN report titled Replacement Migration. Is it a solution to declining and aging populations? Dated 2000, but annotated with fresh 2025 projections. He skimmed the opening lines. Western economies, US, UK, Germany, Italy, teetering on collapse by 2040. Birth rates too low, workforces shrinking, pension systems bleeding dry. Legal migration, choked by politics, couldn't keep up. "What's the catch?" Marcus asked, his voice gravelly from too many late nights. Cheryl leaned forward, her knuckles whitening. "The Continuity Council. A shadow group, elites, bureaucrats, think tank ghouls. They've dusted off this report and turned it into a playbook. Legal immigration's too slow, too regulated. They're betting on illegal floods to save the system." Marcus frowned, scrolling through a memo marked classified. 2025 Continuity Protocol. It cited real numbers. Over 2 million illegal crossings at the US-Mexico border in 2024, a record dwarfing legal entries. The council saw it as a pilot, a chaotic, unstoppable tide to prop up a dying economy. Cheryl tapped the screen, her finger trembling. "They're not guessing," she said. "They're making it happen." Marcus spent the next day holed up in his Brooklyn apartment, the report's pages strewn across his desk like a madman's puzzle. The original 2000 document was dry, academic, projections of how many immigrants nations like Germany, 188 million by 2050, or Japan, 600 million, would need to maintain worker-to-retiree ratios. Theoretical, not practical. But the 2025 updates were chillingly specific. GDP forecasts crashing without new taxpayers, Social Security insolvent by 2035, the NHS buckling under an aging UK population. Legal channels, visas, asylum quotas couldn't deliver fast enough. The council's solution? Open the floodgates. He cross-referenced the memo with headlines. The UK had logged 30,000 small boat crossings from France in 2024, up from 28,000 the year before. Migrants packed into dinghies, washing ashore in Kent. Italy's Lampedusa was a war zone of desperation. 60,000 North Africans arriving in 2024 alone, overwhelming a speck of an island. Canada's Roxham Road, a muddy path from New York to Quebec, saw 40,000 illegal entries in the past year. Families trekking through snow, dodging Mounties. These weren't accidents, Cheryl had said. They were engineered. She'd called him that afternoon, her voice a hiss over a burner phone. The West's built on growth, endless, stupid growth. Kids aren't being born. Italy's at 1.24 per woman, Germany's barely better. No workers, no taxes, no pensions. Legal migrants get stuck in red tape or deported by populist backlash. So the council's playing dirty. Porous borders, overwhelmed guards, cartels paid to smuggle. It's already working. Marcus dug deeper. A 2024 Border Patrol report, buried under FOIA delays, showed agents ordered to process and release, rather than detain, even as crossings spiked. Resignations piled up, one officer's leaked letter screaming, "We're told to stand down." The council's fingerprints, Cheryl claimed, were on every policy fumble, every turned blind eye. By midnight, Marcus had his story. He titled it The Silent Flood. How the UN's old math became a new conspiracy and uploaded it to a dark web forum. Mainstream platforms would bury it faster than he could blink. The piece laid it bare. The 177-page report, once a thought experiment, now a weapon. The Continuity Council, a cabal of suits and spooks, orchestrating chaos to save their precious economies. Real-world proof in every overrun border town, every budget stretched thin by undocumented labor. Within hours, the post vanished. Not deleted, shadow banned, its reach throttled by algorithms. Marcus cursed, slamming his laptop shut. He'd expected pushback, but not this fast. His phone buzzed, a text from Cheryl, short and sharp. They're watching. Text theirs. Media too. Check X. He opened the app, searching his handle. Nothing. His followers, 15,000 strong, saw zip. But buried in replies, a few anons had caught the scent. Borders wide open, just like Texas last year. Lampedusa's a staging ground, not a crisis. Who's paying the cartels? Then a direct message slid in, sender blocked. Stop, or you'll drown with the tide. Marcus froze. The room felt smaller, the city's hum a low growl. Cheryl had warned him. The council wasn't just suits in boardrooms. They had muscle, money, and a long reach. He thought of the Border Patrol whistleblowers, the ones who'd quit in 2024 after cryptic stand-down orders. One had crashed his truck off I-10, ruled a suicide. Coincidence? He grabbed his jacket and the thumb drive, slipping out into the night. Cheryl's leak was dynamite, and he'd barely lit the fuse. The council wanted silence, but Marcus Reed didn't scare easy. Not yet. Marcus Reed stepped off the train in Geneva, the Swiss air sharp against his skin. It was March 22nd, 2025, 2 days after Cheryl Loomer's leak had set his world ablaze. The thumb drive burned a hole in his pocket as he navigated cobblestone streets, his hoodie pulled low. Cheryl had given him a name, Dr. Hans Keller, a retired UN demographer who'd co-authored the 177-page replacement migration report back in 2000. If anyone knew how it morphed into a conspiracy, it was him. Marcus found the address, a sagging chalet on the city's edge, shutters peeling, lights dim. Keller answered the door, a gaunt man in his 70s with wire-rimmed glasses and a tremor in his hands. "You're the journalist," he rasped, ushering Marcus inside. The living room smelled of dust and old books, a faded UN flag pinned to the wall. "I told Cheryl not to stir this pot. It's poison." Marcus cut to it. "The Continuity Council. She says they've twisted your report into a weapon. I need names, proof, something to blow this open." Keller sank into an armchair, eyes distant. "That document was a warning, numbers, not orders. We calculated what migration could do. Stop population decline, prop up workforces, save pensions. Germany needing 188 million by 2050, Japan 600 million. Absurd, yes, but theoretical. The council saw a playbook instead." He paused, voice dropping. "They're not idealists. They're vultures." Marcus pulled out his laptop, opening Cheryl's files. "Who are they?" Keller hesitated, then named names. A CEO of a German auto giant, profiting off cheap labor. An EU technocrat who'd pushed open border policies since 2015. A financier whose NGOs had ferried migrants across the Mediterranean. Real-world echoes of groups like Open Arms, raking in millions. "Power, not charity," Keller said. "They meet in shadows, Davos backrooms, private jets. The report's their gospel now." Over tea gone cold, Keller dug out a battered briefcase, spilling yellowed emails from 2023. Marcus scanned them, council directives coded but damning. One ordered soft enforcement at the U.S. border, mirroring 2024's chaos. 2 million illegal crossings, agents told to process, not detain. Another urged Germany to stall deportations. Over 200,000 rejected asylum seekers still lingered there in 2024, working off books in warehouses and slaughterhouses. A third gloated over the EU's €6 billion Turkey deal crumbling, unleashing 1 million migrants since 2023. "It's about money," Keller said, tapping a graph from the original report. Birth rates, Italy's 1.24 kids per woman, Japan's 1.3, even the US barely at 1.6, can't sustain growth. No workers, no taxes. Medicare's a $40 trillion hole by 2035. The UK's NHS is rationing beds already. Legal migration's capped, too many voters screaming, "Close the gates." So they turned to the shadows. Marcus cross-checked the data. Real-world threads wove through it. Sweden's welfare state buckling under migrant enclaves, 2024 reports pegging 20% of its population as foreign-born. France's Calais jungle reborn in 2025, tents sprawling again. The U.S. leaning on undocumented labor. 2.7 million jobs filled in 2024, half off the books. The council wasn't guessing, they were steering. Keller's voice cracked. "I warned them in '05, migration can't fix aging alone. Raise retirement ages, cut benefits, adapt." They didn't listen. They want the flood. Legal's too slow, illegal's a fire hose. Marcus typed furiously, the story taking shape. The 177-page report, a dry study turned manifesto, wielded by a cabal to drown the West in chaos, all to keep the GDP ticking up. He thought of Cheryl's warning: tech, media, government in their pocket. These emails were dynamite, but he'd need more than a dark web post to break through. The explosion came at 2 a.m., a black SUV screeched past the chalet, and a Molotov cocktail shattered the window, flames licking the curtains. Marcus grabbed Keller, shoving him toward the back door as glass rained. "They're here," he yelled, snatching the briefcase and USB. They stumbled into the snowy yard, the house a roaring pyre behind them. Keller wheezed, clutching his chest. "Council enforcers. They don't warn twice." Marcus dragged him to a shed, heart pounding. Headlights swept the street. 2 figures in black, masks glinting, rifles slung low. No sirens yet. Geneva slept on. He peeked through a crack. The men torched Keller's car, then vanished into the night. Professionals, not thugs. Inside the shed, Keller slumped against a workbench. "I'm done, Reed. Take it and run. Cheryl was right, they'll kill to bury this." Marcus rifled the briefcase, stuffing emails into his bag. "You're coming with me." "No," Keller snapped. "I'm old slow. You're the voice now." Before Marcus could argue, a phone buzzed, his burner. A news alert. Retired UN official Hans Keller found dead in apparent suicide. Timestamped an hour ago. He stared at Keller, alive but pale. "They're ahead of us." Keller nodded grimly. "Preemptive. Standard play. Go." Marcus bolted, the USB and papers clutched tight. He hit the streets, weaving through alleys as the chalet's glow faded. The council wasn't just watching, they were striking. Keller's suicide would hit the wires by dawn, a neat bow on a loose end. Marcus thought of whistleblowers gone quiet, Border Patrol vets, NGO insiders, silenced by accidents or overdoses. Real-world ghosts. He ducked into a train station, breath fogging in the cold. The story was bigger than he'd dreamed and deadlier. The Continuity Council had built their arc on the 177-page report, and they'd sink anyone who dared to drill a hole. Marcus Reed crouched in the scrub brush near the Rio Grande, the Texas night thick with humidity and the hum of cicadas. It was March 25, 2025, 3 days since Geneva burned, and he'd crossed borders, legal this time, to chase the story Cheryl Loomer had bled for. The USB from Keller's briefcase glowed faintly in his pocket, a digital bomb ticking louder with every step. Here, where the U.S. met Mexico, the Continuity Council's flood was no theory. It was flesh and bone, spilling over the riverbank. He'd rented a shack outside Eagle Pass, a border town drowning in chaos. In 2024, over 2 million illegal crossings had ripped through here, and 2025 was on pace for 3 million families, smugglers, and kids with duct-taped shoes, funneled by cartels raking in $13 billion a year, per FBI estimates. Marcus watched through binoculars. Border Patrol trucks idled, agents outnumbered, their flashlights cutting weak arcs through the dark. A tent city sprawled nearby, hundreds camped out, waiting for buses that never came. Real-world hell, not headlines. A man stumbled into view, mud-caked and hollow-eyed. Marcus approached, offering water. "Name's Jose," the man said, accent thick. "Honduras. Been walking 2 weeks." He sipped, then spilled his story. Recruiters in Tegucigalpa had promised jobs, construction, meatpacking, in exchange for a $5,000 smuggling fee. They said the border's open. Said companies need us. Marcus's gut twisted. Council operatives? He'd seen 2024 reports. U.S. firms quietly hiring undocumented workers, skirting labor laws. Jose was a pawn in their game. Back in the shack, Marcus cracked open Keller's USB on a beat-up laptop. A council directive glowed on screen, dated January 2025, destabilize enforcement. Normalize the influx. The 177-page projections demand it. Economic collapse looms without labor. Attached were charts from the original report, Germany needing 188 million immigrants by 2050, the U.S. 80 million, scaled down but urgent. 10 million illegals by 2030 to shore up GDP. Legal migration, capped at 1 million a year, was a trickle. This was the fire hose. He cross-referenced the chaos outside. Europe mirrored it. France's Calais jungle reborn in 2025, 5,000 migrants clashing with riot police. Sweden's welfare system creaking, 2024 stats showing 20% of its population foreign-born, half undocumented. Italy's Lampedusa a choke point, 60,000 arrivals in 2024 alone. The council's memos bragged, borders are sieves by design. Real-world proof piled up. U.S. jobs spiked 2.7 million in 2024, half filled by shadows like Jose, untaxed but essential. Marcus scribbled notes. The 177-page report wasn't just a forecast. It was a weapon, wielded to justify engineered collapse. Cheryl had been right. Legal channels were too slow, too policed. Illegal flows, untraceable, unstoppable, were the council's fix. He thought of Jose's recruiters, their ties to corporations echoing 2023 scandals. Meatpacking plants raided, CEOs shrugging off fines. The council didn't just want workers. They wanted an underclass, cheap and disposable. He stepped outside, the night alive with rustles. Jose had vanished, back to the river, maybe or nabbed by IC. Marcus scanned the horizon. A coyote howled, and a border patrol drone buzzed overhead, its spotlight missing the dozen figures slipping through reeds. The flood rolled on, relentless. The attack came at dawn. Marcus woke to the shack's door splintering, 2 men in black balaclavas bursting in. He lunged for the USB, but a fist cracked his jaw, sending him sprawling. "Where's the drive?" One growled, voice flat, professional. "Council enforcers," Keller's warning made flesh. Marcus kicked, catching a shin, and scrambled for the laptop. The second man yanked a gas can from a bag, dousing the room, walls, bed, papers. "Last chance," he said, flicking a lighter. Marcus grabbed a chair, swinging it wild. It smashed a lamp, buying seconds. He dove through a window, glass slicing his arm, and hit the dirt running as flames roared behind him. The shack blazed, a beacon in the gray dawn. Marcus sprinted for the brush, USB clutched tight, blood dripping. He heard shouts, Spanish, then English, border patrol drawn by the fire, or more council muscle. He didn't stop to check. Tires screeched on a dirt road. A black SUV peeled out, mirroring Geneva's hit. They'd tracked him. Keller's suicide hadn't been enough. Huddled behind a mesquite tree, Marcus caught his breath. The shack was ash now, his notes with it, but the USB survived. Jose's face haunted him, gone, deported, or dead. The council didn't care. He was a statistic, a digit in their 177-page math. Marcus thought of Cheryl, hiding God knows where, and Keller, torched out of the game. The flood wasn't just bodies, it was a war, and he was its bleeding edge. He stumbled toward town, the river's murmur fading. The story wasn't dead, not yet. The council wanted him silenced, but every strike made him louder. He'd seen the breaking point, Texas, Lampedusa, Calais, and it wasn't natural. It was built. Time to hit back. Marcus Reed stepped off the Eurostar in London, the drizzle soaking his hoodie as he clutched the USB, his last lifeline after Texas. It was March 28, 2025, and the city buzzed with gray tension. Cheryl Loomer's leak and Keller's death had driven him here, chasing a tip from an encrypted email. Sarah Patel, ex-MI6. She knows the council's strings. He met her in a Camden pub, a corner booth shrouded in smoke. Sarah was sharp-edged mid-30s, her dark eyes scanning him like a threat. "You're the idiot poking the bear," she said, sliding a pint his way. "I've got files, Council Dirt. Quit MI6 when I saw their claws in Whitehall." Marcus leaned in. "Cheryl said they're in government too. I need proof." Sarah smirked, pulling a tablet from her bag. Files glowed. Memos from UK ministers, 2024, pressured to ignore 45,000 channel crossings. Small boats ferrying migrants from France, up from 30,000 the year before. Another showed German officials bribed. €2 million traced to a Frankfurt shell company to funnel rejected asylum seekers into low-wage jobs. Over 200,000 lingered in 2024, per Der Spiegel. Real-world rot. The 2023 Windrush scandals delays flashed in Marcus's mind. Compensation stalled, accountability dodged. "They want a permanent underclass," Sarah said. "Cheap labor, no rights." The 177-page reports their excuse. Aging West needs bodies, legal or not. Marcus nodded, thinking of Jose in Texas, promised work by shadowy recruiters. "How deep?" "Top down," she replied. "Council's got MPs, CEOs, even NGOs. Next meeting's tomorrow, Brussels. We crash it." The train to Brussels was a blur, Marcus and Sarah prepping their cover. Caterers for a private summit. By March 29th, they slipped into a sleek EU office building, trays of canapés masking their intent. The council convened in a glass-walled room. 10 suits, faces obscured by dim light. Marcus recognized one voice, a German accent clipped, like the Otto Co. Keller had named. Sarah whispered, recorders on. The leader stood, a silhouette against the cityscape. The 177-page report was prophetic, he said, tapping a tablet. Legal migration failed, 1 million a year, bottlenecked by populists. Chaos is our savior. He outlined escalation. Sabotage UK deportation flights. The Rwanda scheme, stalled since 2024, now grounded by mechanical failures. Fund NGOs like SOS Mediterranee, real-world ferries of migrants across the Med since 2015, their budgets mysteriously flush. 10 million by 2030, he boasted. Borders stay sieves. Marcus's pulse raced. The report's numbers, Germany's 188 million, the US's 80 million, echoed here, scaled to reality but ruthless. Sarah nudged him, plating shrimp as a guard glanced their way. Another spoke. France resists, but Calais weakens them. 5,000 intense again, 2025. Sweden's welfare's a warning. 20% foreign-born, collapsing. We push harder. The plan crystallized. Flood the West, prop up GDP, dam the fallout. Marcus thought of Lampedusa's 60,000 in 2024. Texas's 3 million projected this year. Chaos by design. The leader cited the report's worker-retiree ratios, twisted into a mandate. No choice, he said. Pensions dry up without them. A tray clattered. Marcus's hand slipped, drawing eyes. Staff, Sarah muttered, but a guard approached, radio crackling. Time was up. They bolted, trays abandoned, sprinting through marble halls. Footsteps pounded behind. 2 guards, then 4, shouts in French and English. Marcus clutched the recorder, Sarah leading through a service exit. Brussels streets swallowed them, neon and rain a blur. Upload it, she hissed, yanking him into an alley. Marcus fumbled his phone, syncing the audio to a dark web link Cheryl had prepped. It hit the net as tires screeched. A black van, council muscle, screeched around a corner. Sarah drew a concealed Glock, firing a warning shot. The van swerved, buying seconds. They darted through a market, stalls toppling, vendors cursing. At a safe house, an attic above a bakery, Sarah played the file. The leader's voice crackled. Chaos is our savior. Marcus posted it wider, Fringe forums, knowing the council's tech puppets would strike. Within hours, BBC spun it. Conspiracy audio debunked as fake. But the raw file spread, Anons dissecting it. Channel boats aren't random. Germany's a factory for this. Rage simmered online. Sarah paced. They'll bury it. But Paris is burning. Riots over migrants, 2025's worse than 23. This could tip it. Marcus stared at his phone, the USB warm in his grip. The council's strings ran deep, ministers, borders, media, but the flood was cracking their grip. He thought of Keller's torched chalet, José's disappearance. The 177-page report wasn't just paper. It was a war plan, and he was in its crosshairs. Marcus Reed hunched over a laptop in a damp basement, somewhere in rural England, the air heavy with mildew. It was March 31st, 2025, and the Continuity Council's shadow loomed larger than ever. Sarah Patel stood guard at the door, Glock in hand, as he prepped a live stream. Their last shot to blow the conspiracy wide open. The USB from Keller, the Brussels audio from Sarah, and every scrap of Cheryl Loomer's leak glowed on screen. Outside, the world churned. 1 million migrants had hit the EU in 2025 already. U.S. sanctuary cities buckled under 3 million crossings. Canada's asylum backlog swelled to 200,000. The flood was real, and Marcus had the why. He hit go live, his bruised face filling the feed. This is Marcus Reed. You've seen the borders collapse, Texas, Lampedusa, Calais. It's not chaos. It's a plan. He held up the 177-page replacement migration report, its cover faded but damning. The UN warned of declining populations in 2000, Germany needing 188 million immigrants, the US 80 million. The Continuity Council made it policy. Illegal floods, not legal fixes, to save their economies. He played the Brussels audio, Chaos is our savior, and flashed council memos. Sabotage deportations, funded NGOs, rigged borders. The chat exploded, fringe streams, Anons amplifying. 2.7 million jobs in 24, half illegals. Channel boats hit 45,000 this year. Fury spiked as Marcus tied it to 2025's crises. Paris riots over migrant tents, Sweden's welfare gutted, Italy's coast a graveyard. They need workers, he said. Birth rates, 1.24 in Italy, 1.6 in the US, can't sustain pensions. Legal migration's too slow. So they open the gates. Sarah whispered, 2 minutes. They'll trace us. Marcus nodded, pushing on. The council struck fast. Within an hour, Marcus's stream was labeled terrorist propaganda by tech giants, accounts banned, links scrubbed. Governments doubled down. UK Home Office called it disinformation. Germany's Interior Ministry vowed order. But the raw audio leaked wider, mirrored on encrypted sites. A US senator, echoing 2024's $150 billion illegal immigration cost, took the floor. Who's letting this happen? Protests flared. London's Trafalgar Square choked with banners. Paris's streets a rerun of 2023's Yellow Vest chaos. Berlin's Reichstag ringed by shouts of Grenzen Zoo. Close the borders. Marcus and Sarah relocated, a barn in Kent, as the backlash grew. The 177-page report trended, debated, dissected. Was it a hijacked warning, as Keller claimed, or a planted seed? Sarah scrolled X. They're cracking. Public's too pissed to ignore. Marcus wasn't sure. The flood rolled on. Texas tent cities, channel dinghies, too entrenched to stop cold. The council's strings were fraying, but not snapped. Then a knock. Sarah raised her gun, but Marcus froze at the voice. It's me. Cheryl Loomer stepped in gaunt, her auburn hair dyed black. Fake my death, she said, tossing a hard drive on the table. Been digging since New York. Marcus gaped. You're insane. Necessary, she shot back. They've rigged the numbers. GDP collapse forecasts inflated by 30%. The flood's a lie to justify control. She booted the drive, doctored stats, emails from council economists to treasury heads, US, UK, Germany, pushing panic to greenlight chaos. Real-world echoes hit hard. 2023 Fed warnings of Social Security insolvency, UK NHS cuts, all exaggerated to fit the 177-page math. Sarah grinned. This kills them. They uploaded it, Cheryl's data, Marcus's voice, Sarah's grit. The council lied, Marcus narrated live again. The crisis isn't inevitable. It's manufactured. The hard drive's proof went viral, council names, payoffs, fake projections. A financier's Swiss account linked to Mediterranean NGOs collapsed under scrutiny. A German CEO resigned by dawn. By April 1, 2025, the reckoning hit. Protests swelled. Yellow Vests 2.0, a global howl for borders and truth. The council crumbled piece by piece. A UK minister sacked over Channel boat bribes, an EU technocrat indicted for NGO slush funds. Mainstream media flipped. CNN ran conspiracy or cover-up? Der Spiegel probed Germany's 200,000 undeported. The 177-page report became a rallying cry, its dry stats a symbol of betrayal. But the flood didn't stop. Marcus stood on a Kent hill, watching news on a cracked phone. Texas crossings ticked up, Lampedusa boats docked, Calais tents multiplied. Cheryl's data had toppled kings, but the system, built on growth propped by shadows, was too deep to uproot fast. Sarah holstered her Glock, grim. We won the battle. War's another story. Cheryl lit a cigarette, her first in years. They'll adapt. New faces, same game. But people know now. Marcus stared at the horizon, the USB cold in his pocket. The council's arc had sprung leaks, Keller's death, Jose's ghost, the Brussels chase, but the tide still rose. Real-world costs flashed. $150 billion in the US, 20 billion euros in the EU, welfare stretched, towns split. He'd exposed the why, but the how stopping it eluded him. Was the West doomed to drown, or could it dam the flow? He didn't know. Not yet.